Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the press briefing with our co-chairs of the Left Group. Manon Aubry will be here shortly. She's speaking in the chamber, and Martin Sturtevant. This is a time when Ursula von der Leyen faces a broad left challenge to her far-right commission, and the Parliament faces a moment to defend democracy and the rule of law by saying no to Orban's Hungary. So I give the floor now to Martin to show how we are defending a democratic European values in this session. Please, Martin.
Vielen Dank, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. And welcome to our press conference. I think that part of defending democracy means fighting for social justice. And we'd like to remind our Luxembourg Prime Minister that tax justice is part of this too. I'd also like to take this opportunity to briefly address the date today, the 7th of October. It's the second anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel. And it was perhaps one of the worst times for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And in Europe, especially in Germany, we've seen that anti-Semitism is rising, and we have to be very clear that our duty here in the European Parliament is to lead the fight against anti-Semitism. It's part of our political DNA. And we also have to consider this in our approach to Israel. At the same time, we need to consider the situation in Gaza. The situation is unbearable. The war has been underway for 2 years now, and the EU has been standing on the sidelines for far too long now. We seem to be unable to have a position. We have to play a key role in the region and calling for peace and to protection of the people of the region. It is our duty to call upon the Netanyahu government not just that this is a violation of human rights, but we use everything we have in our powers to put a stop to this war. This means that Hamas has to release the hostages. This means that the Israeli government needs to put a stop to the bombardments of the Gaza Strip and leave the Palestinian territory. We need a ceasefire in order to make humanitarian aid possible. We need to relieve the dire situation of the citizens in the Gaza Strip and find a political solution for the whole region. The fight for human rights is closely linked to the fight for democratic values. Today, the Parliament will be voting on a number of issues related to the Hungarian government, submissions for a waiver of political immunity. Ilaria Salas is one of our comrades, members of the group. Over the last week, the Orban government has worsened the situation in Hungary and has attempted. And there is a worsening situation, democratic situation in Hungary. The Orban government has designated anti-fascist activity as a crime, and we've seen the attacks by this government on anti-fascist, and we see this as an attack on democracy itself, because democracy stands in opposition to autocratic rule. And democracy is in itself anti-fascist. In the European Parliament, on several occasions we have stated in our resolutions that the rule of law in Hungary is completely non-existent. That is why today, as a political group, when discussing the immunity of our colleagues, regardless of which political group they come from, we will be defending the immunity of Peter Miagja, Klara Dobrev, and of course Ilaria Salas. We will defend their immunity because we stand against the political persecution. because that's what it is. It is political persecution. It's a legal term. These people are being prevented from carrying out their political duties, their political responsibilities. So all Democrats here in this House should be voting to protect the immunity of our three colleagues. We should be defending their immunity. We're cautiously optimistic that we will be successful in this call, and we would hope that members of other political groups will not give in to the political pressure from countries such as Hungary. We need to defend democracy, which is, by its very nature, anti-fascist.
And now I give the floor to Manon to show that we are the group of resistance against the far-right Europe. Please, Manon, it's yours.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à toutes.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Of course, I'm going to kick off by talking about the main activity this week, the vote of no confidence. I'll be very clear here. Ursula von der Leyen needs to go. She needs to go because she's complicit with the genocide in Gaza due to her cowardice, her lack of action. The European Commission enacted 19 sanctions packages against Russia, but nothing yet against the genocidal government of Benjamin Netanyahu. Under her commission that has made the EU a vassal state with this agreement with the United States and the EU, with in particular a completely asymmetrical agreement with over 15% of tariffs for EU products entering the US markets and no reciprocal measure, pushing forward on the free trade agreement with Mercosur, sacrificing in so doing our agriculture, our health and our planet. And lastly, a European Commission that is racking up its rollbacks when it comes to social and environmental rights, which very plainly seems to have forgotten all about the Green Deal of the first mandate. So this vote of no confidence, well, it's been spearheaded by the left group, and we really are speaking for those who elected us, but not just them, since 60% of European citizens are calling for Ursula von der Leyen to go, and indeed her commission. In fact, 72% have said that they have no trust in Ms von der Leyen to defend the EU's economic interests. And lastly, this motion of censure will be a moment of clarity. It's going to shed light and serve to pull off the masks. It will serve to distinguish between those who follow Ms von der Leyen's politics and those who stand against it clearly. And here I turn to the MEPs from the Socialists and the Greens. There are MEPs from those groups that signed off on this motion of censure, even if the heads of their groups seem to have forgotten that. But I have a question for those political groups. What exactly have you gained over the past year, following blindly along with Ursula von der Leyen's policies? What have you gained apart from being complicit with the genocide in Gaza, the deal with Mercosur, the deal with the US, the rollbacks on our social and environmental rights that I mentioned earlier? That is really what has come out of a year of supporting that coalition with Madame von der Leyen. So this vote of no confidence is a warning to all these majorities being formed between the right and the far right of this chamber no later than this week on corporate social responsibility. We see deals being done between the right and far right. Now, yesterday, Irache Garcia Perez addressed me in the chamber and she said, look at you, the left. You've given up on negotiating. You're incapable of compromising. But is this really what you mean by compromising, socialists? Is it moving back on what's been done on the deforestation law, on corporate social responsibility? Is it moving forward on free trade deals? Some may have preferred to compromise, but we will refuse to give in because that's what these compromises are, just giving in. Moving on now to my second topic, the political situation in France, since this is going to have an impact on the whole of Europe. My country, France, yesterday entered a new phase of the crisis of the regime. The Prime Minister, Mr. Le Cornu, beat two records. One, the longest time to form a government, 26 days, days, but also the shortest ever time for a government to fall, under 12 hours, in fact. And I say this solemnly here in the Parliament. This is symptomatic of a profound crisis that is weakening France's voice on the European stage. And if you want proof of that, you've got ministers walking away, and they're going to be showing up to European councils for which they're not legitimate at all. There is a void of power, which means France is losing out on its credibility and its heft in European decision-making. And it's not as if this was an important time. There's the free trade deal with Mercosur. France is supposed to stand against that. But who is going to be speaking for France there at the Council? And at the end of the day, it's the interests of the people of France that are going to pay for this, that won't be protected. Then you've got people coming to the Parliament here wondering how a president can stand alone in appointing a government all by himself. Well, there is a clear path forward in the face of this crisis. The problem is in the Élysée, the presidential palace. The problem is Macron, and he needs to go. And we have filed a motion to that effect in France. If what we want to do is find a way forward to France and give them back their voice in Europe, well, Macron needs to give in or go. Lastly, Trump's plan for Gaza. I'll speak plainly here as well. Trump's plan for Gaza is in fact not a peace plan, but a neo-colonial plan. I'm talking here of the negotiations taking place in Egypt. Of course, I want to see a good outcome for these negotiations. I want to see the Israeli hostages being released. Our thoughts are with them today on the 7th of October. I'm thinking about an end to this polycrisis in Palestine, but there is something that really is so clear. This plan has no legs. It's shaky. There's no plan for the withdrawal of the Israeli army, and that opens the door to a perpetual occupation of the Gazan territory by Israel. But it's not just that. This is a neo-colonial plan, as I said, because it places Palestinians under protection, under the auspices of Donald Trump and Tony Blair, as if the Palestinians were not capable of deciding for themselves. And it's clear, to look at the impact of all of this, what will happen. It's the citizens of Palestine that will be paying the price, because they're not being given the agency to make their own decisions. And furthermore, a carte blanche is being given to Netanyahu to, under any pretext, finish the job, i.e. continue with the genocide. So you can see that I'm quite pessimistic about the Trump plan, since Donald Trump seems more preoccupied with winning the Nobel Peace Prize than anything else. And it's difficult to trust Netanyahu's government, since last time round he decided not to respect the ceasefire in March, and he continues to orchestrate a humanitarian blockade which is starving Gazans, which the Global Summit Flotilla tried to break. I'm not mentioning here the silence and the complicity of the EU, which has rushed to back this plan to avoid its responsibilities, when the EU should be doing the thing that has no choice but to do, which is a weapons embargo, a trade embargo, and the respect of the mandate of the International Criminal Court. As long as the Israeli army continues to occupy and colonize Palestinian territory, as long as justice is not delivered for Palestinians, we will continue to fight here in the European Parliament, but also outside, to put a stop to this genocide.
Now for the questions. We have about 4 minutes left. We'll start with you, Max, then we'll go 1, 2, 3. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. 2 questions. It was interesting yesterday to see Irache Garcia sort of direct her criticism from MEP towards you. So, changing sort of. Irache Garcia, right? She was telling how, it's not the way to try to bring down the Commission, but rather dialogue. What do you make of that criticism? I would like a reaction. Then, on another note, tomorrow is the Commission President's birthday. I was wondering if you could give us a wish for her birthday. Thank you.
And we'll just continue the questions because we only have a few minutes. So here and then here, please.
Sorry. First question. Similarly, I saw in the hemicycle yesterday you were called agents provocateurs and even trolls for bringing this this vote. What do you say to those accusations that it's just a distraction from getting away on with business? And then secondly, On Gaza, you mentioned you're not happy with the plan. What conditions or what terms would you look for in a plan that would, from Israel, that would be acceptable?
Thank you. And final question, please.
Oui, Monsieur Mali, journaliste de la télévision.
I'm Mr. Murray, journalist for the Kurdish television. Currently, in Aleppo, there are two neighbourhoods, Al-Masud, Ashrafiyeh, and they've been encircled. They're under siege by the government forces. The roads have been blocked for several days now. There have been deaths, and there has been a cry for help coming out of the area since yesterday, an appeal for help to the European institutions. So what can the European Parliament, the European institutions do to prevent a possible massacre in Aleppo? Thank you.
You have 2 minutes, please. Co-chairs, Manon, you start.
Yes, I'll go quick. I'll do it in French so that I will be faster if you don't mind. Bon, d'abord, sur les critiques directes.
On the criticism we received from Ms. Garcia, well, I think that she is febrile. She is worried. An MEP from her group signed off on our vote of no confidence. She knows that it will be supported by some of her MEPs. Because, again, I mean, what have the socialists gained in the first year of this term? Competitiveness, deregulation, no laws for workers, no response to the climate crisis, and a deafening silence, yes, of the European Union on the genocide in Gaza. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to be happy with the tiny little crumbs from the Commission after 150 days of genocide. They're saying, oh, maybe we'll suspend the trade agreement. Really? Is that what the socialists stand for in Europe today? Is this the Commission that they're supporting? Commission that is incapable of standing strong. The socialists are incapable of speaking out strongly on this. Since the start of this term, I have been calling on the socialists to join us and have a real left front in the Parliament, but they seem to have lost their way, unfortunately. Now, as to Ms von der Leyen's birthday, well, I hope that she will leave the Commission, that she'll step down and that she'll take a little time off. I think it might be about time for her to retire, and I know that she's got a lot of kids and grandkids, so I wish her all the best, to rest well, and we'll take over, politically speaking. Now on to the trolls and the agents provocateurs. Well, you know, filing a no-confidence vote is an exercise of democracy, and when you've got 60% of Europeans calling for the European Commission to go, who are the trolls and the agents provocateurs? Those who persist in pursuing policies that no one wants, or those who are speaking out for Europeans who want something different in the vast majority? In fact, they are the ones who are destroying the European project by causing European citizens to turn away.
New Europe.
Ja, ich wünsche Frau von der Leyen.
Yes, I'd also wish that Madame von der Leyen can enjoy her retirement peacefully and reflect on her political career. Secondly, the comments by the Socialists and the Greens, it's very ironic, the accusations they're throwing at us. Of course, we're using our democratic resources to change policies. Europe is heading in completely the wrong direction. Yes, we have presented our concerns very clearly, and to a large extent the Socialists and the Greens actually share our concerns. And what we're calling for is a complete U-turn in policy. So it is quite ironic that they seem to be opposed to that now. We are simply saying what European citizens want. They have no trust in this Commission. And we were simply calling a spade a spade. Now, the situation in Syria, we have had the first elections, elections to a certain extent. Yes, the situation, the conditions weren't ideal, but it's a step in the right direction towards democracy. And hopefully Syria is on the way to a multi-ethnic, multi-confessional society. and some of the conditions were not ideal. There were no Kurdish representatives for the parliament. We've seen very few Christians, very few Alawites. There is, however, looking at the political partnership, and you talked about the issues between Damascus and Aleppo as well. We have to hope that Syria is heading towards a multi-ethnic future, because and the Commission has to contribute to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you very much to the journalists. Thank you to the co-chairs. Thank you to the interpreters, and apologies to our Renew Europe colleagues. Thank you very much. Have a good session.